Hey, this is Sam Black, and today I'm going to look at 5-color midrange and standard. This is not a deck of my own design, although I've made some tweaks to it. But the reason that I'm highlighting it is that I think that I have a different approach to it than most people. Not in terms of how it's built or necessarily played, but in sideboarding. And I want to highlight what I'm doing with that and why I think it's good. But as for the main deck and its construction, this is a very cleverly designed 5-color deck in that it's built to use the mana in the format very well. It's tricky to support 5 colors with fetch lands, but this deck, I guess, takes a page out of some old extended zoo decks that played too many colors, and is scripted to a very specific order in which it fetches lands. And the other really clever thing that's going on here is that it doesn't play all 5 basics. It only plays 3 basics, which is the minimum number required to make sure that each of your lands can fetch a basic, which means that when you need an untapped land, you can always get one. Basically this deck is designed to lead on Sunken Hollow. So it has 2 Sunken Hollows and 4 Flooded Strands and 4 Bloodstained Mires to maximize the odds of being able to play a Sunken Hollow on turn 1. And the reason that it's so important to lead with Sunken Hollow on turn 1 is that it's your only way to have untapped blue mana on turn 2 for your only real 2-mana play, Jace Vryn's Prodigy. And then from there, you're looking to get basics as soon as possible, because you want all of your lands to come into play untapped. And so you're looking to start Sunken Hollow and then Mountain and Plains. Often Mountain, then Plains, since you can spend red mana when you only have 2 lands in play, and you can't spend white mana when you only have 2 lands in play, except for Master of the Unseen. But the order there is pretty flexible. And again, the reason that Sunken Hollow is so important is that you have 2 different 3-drops that cost white, red, X, where X is either blue or black, and Sunken Hollow allows you to play both of them. If you lead with any other combination of lands, you either can't play all of your 3-drops or won't have all of your lands coming into play untapped on turn 4. There are sacrifices that can be made if your hand doesn't let you start that way, where you can still do most of what you need to do with other combinations of lands, but the deck functions much more smoothly when you can do that, and it's designed to be able to do that as often as possible. So the deck doesn't plan to spend green mana until turn 4, and that's why you need to have 2 basics by turn 4, because like with islands, you don't have any untapped, you don't have any forests. So the only way that you can have an untapped green on turn 4 is by fetching Canopy Vista or Cinderglade after already having 2 basic lands in play. So this deck is built to curve Jace into Crackling Doom into Siege Rhino, and it's surprisingly good at doing that. So that's what's going on with the mana. Then as for the spells, basically it plays the best threats, Jace, Mantis Rider, and Siege Rhino, with good removal in Fiery Impulse, Crackling Doom, Utter End, and Murderous Cut, and then other answers in Disdainful Stroke and Kolaghan's Command. And it's designed to play the long game very well and to be able to win attrition wars against basically anyone. And to that end, it has 3 Den Protectors and 3 Kolaghan's Commands, a Tasigur, an Oblivion Sower, and a Treasure Cruise, and a Master of the Unseen. So the Utter Ends, especially the second one, the Master of the Unseen and the Oblivion Sower, are my own additions. And basically I want to be able to grind as well as possible, and I think that having a single super high impact creature that you can return with Kolaghan's Command late goes a long way toward doing that. I'm not actually sure that Oblivion Sower is the right way to do it in this deck, because you only have 9 lands that actually tap for mana. And so there are some concerns about just running out of lands to fetch. But in principle, I like what it's doing, and I want to try it out. And it plays well in theory with Master of the Unseen, setting you up with enough mana to use it multiple times in a turn, which is very difficult for other decks to beat. So, moving on to the sideboard, I have various removal spells, Valorous Dance, Surge of Righteousness, Self-Inflicted Wound, Radiant Flames for various different kinds of threats, Duress, Disdainful Stroke, Dispel for spell-type decks, and then, perhaps most importantly, 1 Master of the Unseen, 2 Painful Truths, and 1 Exert Influence for attrition matchups and places where I need to be grinding. And I mentioned that I take sideboarding differently than most people, and the primary way in which I do that is that I often board out Mantis Rider and or Siege Rhino. These are very powerful threats that the deck is trying very, warped around. The deck is basically warped around being able to play both of these cards. So it is weird to only want them in game 1. But both of them are, because there's so many colors, they're dealt with by a wide range of sideboard cards. For example, Surge of Righteousness and Self-Inflicted Wound both kill both of them. And what I find is that when you play really high impact threats like this, people board in a lot of answers to them. And if I cut both of these, then removal spells are remarkably bad against my deck. And when my opponent is boarding against me as if I'm a threat deck and I become an answer deck, they can easily be very far out of position. So basically I'm hoping to get a lot of wins by pulling the rug out from under my opponent. So that's today's goal, and we will see how it goes.